There we go. Okay. So today we'll start with a quick overview. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that because, like I said, a lot of things have changed, and most of the features you're going to be familiar with from original. I'll show you where the feature guide is so you can do a little comparing. We're going to talk about shell courses too, and if you do walk away with one thing from this workshop today, it's that it's a really good idea to design or to build your courses rather in a shell. Especially when you're converting to Ultra, because by creating a shell course and then building in your shell, if there are any mistakes you make or if you need to start over, that's easily done. If you build in a live course, if you make mistakes, you have to either untangle them or completely start over, which obviously in a live course, if you've got students in there, you can't do. So I always recommend building in a shell. You can keep that shell. It stays with you. You can copy you can copy this course into that, or I should say you can copy the course you built in the shell into your live courses that you request each semester. So you can use that shell as an archive. And this also makes it convenient because if you do need to make changes during the semester, you can make the changes in the shell and they are ready to go for your next semester. You don't have to worry about copying, making changes in a course that you taught, things like that. So I'm going to say it again, build in a shell. All right. We'll talk about Ultra, and then we'll talk about some of your options for course migration and a few recommendations I have. It is different for everybody. So one of the things, again, I'm going to recommend is that you set up a consultation with somebody from CITL. We have, and I'll go over this a little later, we do have an online bookings site where you can schedule an appointment. You can sit down with one of our staff for an hour and we can go over your particular case and make recommendations on how best to transition your courses or that particular course to Ultra. So don't forget about us. We're here for you. And then hopefully at the end, we'll have time for some questions. So I know there's only two of you here. So if you do have questions during the session, or if I'm not clear about something, or if you want me to, if you know something and you think we should just move on from it, feel free to jump on the mic and ask the question or offer your feedback. Like I said, there's only a couple of us, so I don't think it'll be a problem. I do ask that you keep your mic muted when you are not speaking, just to cut down on some background noise. But like I said, please don't hesitate if you want to ask a question to just interrupt me. It does not bother me. Okay. So first off, why are we switching to Ultra? Well, a couple of reasons. One is probably the biggest one, right, is that the original course view has been here for over 10 years. So it's a dinosaur and we need to update it. This Ultra is designed more for mobile computing. So the idea is you have the same experience, whether you're on a computer, a laptop, a tablet, or a phone, and that it's consistent across all those systems. The other thing I think that's really important about the move to Ultra is that it does increase accessibility for all of our students. So, me, that's probably the biggest and most important reason to make the move, because it is going to make it more accessible for everyone. If you're interested in learning more, we do have our Ultra page where you can get all sorts of information about the move to Ultra. If you click on our Ultra tab, the two you're going to want to pay most attention to are the what's new in Ultra, because as I mentioned earlier, they're making a lot of changes and they're coming very rapidly. So what used to be a couple, 3 changes every month with the new release now has turned into probably a dozen changes or more. So if you go to the what's new in Ultra, we have a little description of some of the new features that have been added, and we'll also have a little preview of some of the stuff that's coming up shortly. As with anything, what's coming up is not necessarily set in stone, but generally when they give us the heads up that it's about 3 months out. They're really in the final stages, and it is going to go live. It's some of the other stuff that's a little further out that we may not see. But that, and then there's this feature guide, which does a side-by-side comparison of original features and ultra features, just so you can make sure that any features that you use a lot or are there in ultra, and if they're not there, you're going to need to figure out a workaround, or possibly it may have an indication there that, what, it's being developed, it's just not ready yet. So that's where you find that. Oh yeah, and this is just an example of our feature guide. You can see it's a side-by-side comparison, and they'll tell you if something is going to be discontinued, if it's available, or if it's changed. So that's where you go to find that. And this is the newly released page. I'm going to go through that real quick. Now, there are a lot of changes. A few have been made to the base navigation page. This is one thing I think that sometimes confuses people, because the base navigation page, while in Ultra, doesn't necessarily mean everybody's converted to Ultra, right? So they're two different things. So sometimes that has caused confusion. But on the base navigation page, you have these tabs on the side. The activity stream is something new. It consolidates activity from all your courses. That is customizable, so it is customizable by the end user. So just because items will get posted to the activity stream, if a student can turn that off, and it can be overwhelming, because if you're taking several classes and things are changing, that can be a lot of information. So sometimes students do turn it off. Just be aware of that. It's the same thing with the calendar. You can put stuff on the calendar, but a student can decide which calendar is displayed on this institutional calendar, or which of their class calendars are displayed on this institutional calendar for them. So just because it is on the class calendar, it doesn't necessarily mean that they will see it on their institutional calendar, because they can make those choices. The grades tab is a nice addition. This allows you as an instructor and the students to go to find out grades in one location. This is nice for you as an instructor, because you can jump in right into the grading workflow with just a couple of clicks. They are making improvements to this all the time, but I do like this sort of clearinghouse location, because instead of having to enter the course, you can actually look on the grades tab and see if there's new stuff to be graded. And then this assist tab, which has this little new thing next to it, but it's been around for about a year. This is a great tab to point students to, because this is where they can go to connect with all sorts of non-Blackboard related campus services, like tutoring and writing help, things like that. So all kinds of stuff there. Okay. The announcements pop-up is a great change. This has changed a little from what I've got in here. Now the announcements, I believe, are up along the top. Used to be on the left side. But what is nice about this is that if you have a new announcement in a course and a student has not opened that course since you posted that announcement, it will pop up in front of them. Now they can dismiss it and get through it without reading it, but it does put it in front of them, gives them that option. So I really like that particular feature. They've made several changes to the messaging. You can message from in your course. You also have the messages tab on the base navigation, which allows you, like the grades tab, to view whether you've got messages in courses, and then to jump into those new messages without having to, or with one click, without having to actually go back to your course, open the course, and navigate to the message tab, which is another way to get your messages. But it is this sort of all-in-one location. If you see the little bubble near the message icon, that means you've got some new messages, and when you click on that tab, it will list your classes and show you which ones have messages that you need to read. And this is the messages inside a course. It is along the top here. You do have several different messaging options. You can message, clicking the plus icon to create a message, and you can send them to individuals or groups. Now these are some of the more important changes, or the gradebook changes I'll slow down a little bit for. You have several different views now in your gradebook. You have this list view, which has both a gradable item and a student view, which we'll talk about in a second. But in the list view, it shows all of your gradable items, so you can click into your items to see if if people have submitted. You'll see if you have things that need to be graded. You'll see if there's stuff that needs to be posted. That is another change that's been made in Ultra, is that you have to post your grades now. So you can sort of hold off posting your grades. You can grade things as they come in and post them all at once, or post them individually as you come in. It's up to you. And also from this view, if you need to edit your assignment, you can click the kebab to enter the editing screen and make changes if that's what you need to do. There's also the student list view, which gives you a list of all your students. You can add accommodations from this view. You can also add accommodations for students from the roster. That's another change in Ultra, is that you do not add student accommodations to each individual assignment or assessment. You add them to the student. So if a student gets 50% extra time on timed assessments, you just come in here and you can add it either on the student list or via the grade roster, and then it will apply to all timed assessments. So that's a nice change. If you need to find your last access date, this is where you're going to come to find it, is right here in the middle here. And if you click on your student, that'll take you into their individual screen where you can see all the items and their individual participation. And then up in the upper left too, as I said, there are several different views of the gradebook. There's not just the list view, you've got the grid view. So if you click that little checkerboard icon, it will move you into this grid view, which you're a little more familiar with. This is more of the traditional spreadsheet type of view. So you've got all these different options, which is nice. Some other changes are now the overall grade can be calculated as points or percentages. It's entirely up to you. You do not have to designate a column like you did in original as the outgoing grade. There is already an overall grade column in Ultra. What you do is you go in and modify it to conform to your syllabus. We'll talk a little bit about that. Automatic zeros are nice. This is great for large classes, because if a due date passes and the student hasn't turned something in, if you've enabled automatic zeros, it will automatically enter a zero for that student, which keeps everything up to date and prevents you from having to, the time-consuming process of having to enter zeros for students who haven't turned things in. Extra credit, this is actually changed. So extra credit now can be added to assessments and assignments. It's just a box that you check next to the question that makes it extra credit. Our rubrics now allow point and percentage scoring, and the drop scores has moved a little bit. You just add, I'll show you how to do that. It's part of the overall grade calculation. All right, another very important change you need to be aware of is that there are only 2 levels of nesting now. In original, you could nest very deeply, and if you have a deeply nested course, that can creates some special circumstances you need to be aware of when you're converting your course. If your course is not deeply nested, the conversion process is a little easier. So if you do have a very deeply nested course, you may want to make some changes before you start converting, or you may want to take more of a smaller chunk approach when you're copying in your stuff. We'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about migrating your content. And they've also added this sequential release for modules, so that you can order things in a module and a student needs to complete them and go through an order. So that's nice. But as I mentioned, if your course is heavily nested, and we'll talk more about this in a minute, you're definitely going to want to consult with one of our staff to talk about how you should approach this to make it as smooth as possible. All right, I'm going to pause for just a second to take a quick drink because I feel like I'm talking 1,000 miles an hour. But if anybody has any questions, please feel free to jump on the mic or throw it in the chat. All right, thank you, Laura. All right, so awesome. Okay, so we're going to start talking about course migration. I'm going to try to do some live stuff for you, but I don't know if it's going to work. So please bear with me. But you know, it's kind of good because that's not unlike migrating your course to Ultra. Is that it may not happen in a straight line. You know, you might, so you'll need to expect the unexpected, right? There are some conversion exceptions that happen, okay, and you will be notified about these. A lot of times it will say that you've got a whole bunch of problems. You'll see this big number, but honestly, most of those are low and medium priority exceptions, which really are not a problem. They tend to be small formatting changes, things that do not affect how the course works. If you see a high priority uh, exceptions, that's something you're going to want to investigate, because that means a high priority exception is something that is like a feature that's not supported, or you know, something that just doesn't work, a dramatic format change, things like that. So that will affect the way your course um, is operating. So check those out if you see them. So when the first thing you're going to want to do, right, is take a good look at Ultra and make a plan. Okay, I know I keep harping on this, but do schedule an appointment to talk with our staff. I will send the information on how to do that in my follow-up email. And I'll also hang out after this workshop for a little while if you have specific questions or want to go over some of this other stuff in a little more detail as well. But review the tools available in Ultra for using that feature guide I showed you, and look for anything that would be a deal breaker. I don't know if you were around when Ultra first came onto the scene, which was pre-COVID. When it first dropped, it wasn't fully developed, and there were a lot of things that were missing that just instructors needed, and so that would delay some people from making the switch. Most of those roadblocks have been dismantled. Um, if there is something that you absolutely have to have a feature in original that is not present in Ultra, talk to us. We'll help you figure out a workaround or an alternative. Okay. And the other thing is we have this Ultra Transition Academy that we offer. We're going to be offering it again this fall. We're actually going to offer it twice this fall. It's just a 3-week quick course, and it'll get you started building an Ultra. So if you have any more courses that you need to convert, you might want to consider signing up for this. I will again send the information in my follow-up. But it's definitely worth your time. It's just a 3-week course, and we're switching it. I think it's like I said, it'll be something that'll get you started, and it'll put you in contact with somebody from our staff or one of our faculty ambassadors that is a resource for you to contact if you need help with Ultra. We're always here for you, but we do like to sort of, if we can, we like to establish sort of a one-on-one relationship, you know, so that you're not just, you know, constantly getting somebody different, right? So you have somebody who you maybe know a little better and has a little better idea of how you're trying to structure your course. So it's a little more personal touch. At least that's what we try. Okay, so moving on. Okay, so some of my recommendations. I said earlier, if you have a heavily nested course, you may want to do a limited copy and build. By that, I mean you're copying in smaller chunks. There is an option. You can copy your, and we'll go over this in a minute. You can copy your, or I should say you can copy and migrate your content from an original course to an Ultra course, and it will convert it for you, okay? But if you have some of these problems like a heavily nested course or unsupported content, you're gonna see some errors. So situations like that, especially in a heavily nested course, sometimes it's easier just to copy in smaller chunks, because what happens if you try to copy in content that is nested too deeply, it will bring everything up to the top. And while you'll still have all of your information in the course, all of your content, it is a big mess, and it can be kind of overwhelming. So if you're like me and you're a type of person that kind of stuff just is difficult to deal with, you'll want to take this smaller approach, this sort of smaller chunk approach. Another thing that is great about Ultra is that you can copy things from multiple courses, and you don't, like originally, you don't have to copy everything in a certain area, right? So you can copy granularly in Ultra. So you can actually copy, you could copy a module from one course and a single assignment from a different course, and you can do it all during the same process. So it really is a time saver. And we'll talk a little more about that in a second. Another great change is, or that they've just added to Ultra, is that you can now copy within the course too. So if you have, say, a presentation assignment where you have groups of people presenting on a topic, and there may be, you know, one or two groups each week. So you create the assignment once, but you put instances of it in each weekly module so that that week's group can easily access it. Okay. So just quickly, when you do have an Ultra course, if you're building from scratch and you want to add items, there's a plus icon in the content, and I'll show that to you when I do some demoing in a minute. And you'll see this all over Ultra. This plus icon, generally when you click it, it means it's going to prompt you to add something, right? The menu may differ depending on where you're at, but generally you're going to add something to the course. And what's nice about the plus icon is that it shows up in different places, which means wherever you decide to either copy that content in or create new content or link to the content market, it's going to appear right there. So unlike original, where when you added content to an area, it would just automatically go to the bottom of the list and you had to reorder it, you can actually build your course as you want it to look. So that's another feature that I think is great in Ultra, because I don't like moving things around. You still can move things around. It's not a problem with the drag and drop feature, but having that plus icon and that ability to build and place materials right where you want them from the beginning is awesome. When you click that plus icon, at least when you're building, right, the create item panel will slide out from the side and you have all these different options. You know, building from scratch, you'll click create, copy and content, obviously copy. And then the content market is how you connect to those third-party tools and content. So, as I said, it's a great idea to create a shell. So I want to go over that real quick. Now, I'm going to switch over to another screen. Give me just a second here. Here we go. All right. Okay. Can you guys see that okay?
Yes, I can see it now.
Awesome. Okay. So this is the institution page, right? This is where you land when you come in. We want to create a shell. So what you'll do is, to create a shell, you're going to want to click this Tools tab. Okay, so I'm going to just switch my tab. So on the Tools tab, you'll click Blackboard Faculty Tools, which will take you to this page, right? And you're going to click My Shells. When you click My Shells, and you can see I've got a ton of these shells because I'm always creating them. You'll see a list of your shells, but to create a new shell, you just click Request New Shell. And this is where, okay, good. And you can select, you can name this whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to name this accountancy, and I'm going to call it 03 for a reason that will become obvious. When you select, or when you request your shell, you have the option Ultra or Original. It defaults to Ultra. You're going to want to select Ultra because we're building in Ultra. So once you've done that, you just click Submit. Hopefully this will work. It may not. So we'll just leave it. We'll move on here. Oh, all right. So now, hopefully when I go back to the institution page and I go to my courses, I am hopefully going to see my new shell. So, and one thing about shells is when they are first created, they will be on the current courses page, but they will be under assorted dates and they're alphabetized. So that is why I picked Accountancy 03 because I know since they're alphabetized, they'll be at the top. I just wanted to make it easier. Once you've got your shell created, I would suggest moving it to your favorites so it's easier to access. When you click on this purple star, it'll move it up to your favorites, and that's going to be up at the top here. So now I can open my shell. Okay, and here we go. I've got my empty shell. Okay, so there are a couple things I can do. If I want to copy in my entire course, okay, you can do that, or I can copy in smaller chunks, right? Couple of different ways to access the copy. Number one, or the one I use most often, is just by clicking this plus icon here and go into copy content. Okay, this opens this copy content screen. All right, another way is up here in the upper right. This kebab gives you a few choices, one of which is to copy items. Okay, this is also where the batch edit is, so that's a good thing to know the location of. But again, if you click copy items, it brings me to the same screen. Now, you'll notice that I've got two choices up here, courses and organizations. Okay, I've got a lot of both because I'm on the administrative side of things. But what you'll notice is you'll start here first with just a list of your courses, okay? So I've got a whole list of all these different courses, okay? So if I just want to copy that course in bulk, all I have to do is click this, check this box, and the course itself, right, will show up here in my items item selected column, and to copy in that course, all I have to do is click Start Copy, and the copy will proceed. If, however, I don't want to copy in the entire course, I just want to copy, say, a smaller area, I can click into that course, and now you can see I've got these different areas. So I could copy one or more of these, okay? I can also, if I say I want to copy in this whole content area, but I only want to copy in one of the rubrics, I can come down here and I can open my rubrics folder and I can pick whichever rubric I want. I can pick more than one, and you'll notice as I'm picking these things, okay, they start showing up in this list. Okay, so far I've just picked stuff from this one course, but if I want to pick stuff to copy in from another course, I can use these breadcrumbs at the top. I'll just go back to my courses list, and you can see this shows that I've already picked some stuff from here, and I'm just going to pick another course. Let's pick this one, and I'll just pick this, and you'll see now I've got it's showing, right? I've got stuff from my 2020 June Online Course Design Academy and from my Fall 2020 History 710. So you get the idea, right? You can copy things from multiple locations at once. Once you do click Start Copy, it generally doesn't take a lot of time, but be aware that it's going to be, it's going to take longer the more stuff you have, right? That just kind of makes sense. But that is sort of the quick way to copy. That's the important stuff about copying. Another thing I wanted to show you is that, let me see if I've got, yeah. So this is an original course, okay? Now you may look at this and you're like, I've clicked into the content area here, and you can see I've got a whole bunch of different things here because this is just a sandbox of mine that experiment with. And you can see I've got some items, I've got some files, I've got some folders and modules, I've got videos, all kinds of stuff. And as I mentioned, right, you can only copy in 2 levels of nesting. So that means, right, that you need to be aware of this, that if I have items in this module, and this is, let me slow down. With the nesting, this is something that confused me at first, was that you look at this folder here and I think, oh, I've got this folder, and if I open it, okay, you can see I don't have any, I just have items in it, so this will be okay. But if I had another folder in here, that would be too deep. The reason is because these items over here, these content and assessment areas, they count as a folder when you're copying it over. So this actually counts as the first level folder, say this assessment. And then all of these items, right, as I go down, they're fine because they're just single items, okay? If I had a folder with items in it, it would be okay to copy over. But if I had a folder with others in it, that's not going to work. So I hope that, I do hope that makes sense. All right. So do you have any specific questions about copying items or moving stuff into Ultra at the moment? All right. Okay, good. All right, so I'll just tell you a couple of other things. If for some reason, I'm gonna have to go, hold on, give me a second. I gotta go back to my PowerPoint. Oh, yes, Laura, you had a question?
Yes, I'm mainly going to be building from scratch. I don't think I'm going to be moving much over, but I already
Okay,
requested courses for the fall in Ultra
okay.
format. If
Mhm.
I build shells now, am I still going to be able to put them into the courses that are already there waiting for me but are currently blank?
Yep. Yeah, have you done any building in
I
in the
haven't done any
courses you've
building yet.
requested?
No.
Okay, yeah, then you're fine. They're just going to be blank.
Okay.
And the copy process, this is what I love about Ultra, right? Because copying from Ultra to Ultra is really clean. And once you have your course built in your Ultra shell, you will just copy in bulk like I showed you. You'll just pick it, you'll pick that shell and copy it into your course.
Okay. Great. Thank you
So
so
the
much.
copy process is real easy. That's the other thing I wanted to mention too. Um, if you've been doing this in original for a while, when you copy, right, you go um, to your previous course that you've taught, right, the course you want to copy, and you push that information into your new course, right, all that content into the new course. The Ultra copy works the other way. So you actually go into the course you want the stuff in and copy it in. So it's a little more intuitive, I think. But the process is real easy, and it doesn't bring a bunch of extra stuff, which is what I like about it, right? The original copy process would sometimes bring in some stuff that you didn't need, or it might copy in extra grade columns and things like that, which got confusing after a while. So the new Ultra copy process, I think, is much better. Yeah, okay, give me just a second here. I'm trying to get back to, where are we? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. So as I mentioned, if you bulk copy, if you do a bulk copy from an Ultra in, or excuse me, from an original into an Ultra course, it may require some cleanup, but the bulk copy from Ultra to Ultra is slick and will not require any cleanup. But one thing I want to point out, is the student preview. Okay, if you haven't used this before, it's a great tool, and it's very important because what it does is it allows you to sort of see things from a student perspective. Okay, there are a few tricks to it. You do need to make sure you make your assignments visible before you enter the student preview, because if you haven't made them visible to students, they won't be visible to your student preview user. Um, but it's nice because then you can look at it and see if the material is displaying the way you want it, right? And so so it's not confusing, or um, the information is presented, like I said, in the order you want it. If the item is graded, you can take the assessment as a student. And when you exit the student preview, there's a little, you'll get a little pop-up that asks you if you want to save or discard the information you created as a student. You'll want to save it, because when you do that, when you exit the preview, then you can go to the gradebook, you can click on your preview user, and you can enter the grading workflow. This is something I use a lot because being on the admin side here at Northern, I'm not teaching classes every semester, so I use it because I like to know how the grading workflow works. And I also, it's just good because I like to see how these things actually present themselves to students. And again, you can, after as an instructor, you've gone and you've graded your student preview, and everybody, and you've posted the grade, because you do need to post the grade before it's visible to the student. You can then again enter student preview, and as your preview user, you can then review how the grades are displayed for students. So this is a good thing to do, because you can go in and see, well, if you enabled feedback or something like that, is that displaying properly, right? Maybe you didn't want, maybe when the student looks at the test, it's just displaying correct answers, and you didn't want that to happen. So you'll know to go in and make those changes. Okay, so student preview is something that I really use a lot, and I think it's very useful, just as sort of a last check. Okay, because it does allow you to do everything as a student. There are very few exceptions, I think, where the student preview doesn't work. So just keep that in mind. All right, so we're going to skip this this next thing, actually, because, like I said, this is a little out of date, and the deadline for ultra mitigation is the end of next semester. So we're coming up against it, folks. So let's go. We have to get these things converted. We are, you still have a little bit of time, so there's not quite panic time yet, but we are coming to the deadline. So if you haven't gotten started, this is a good time to get going, because summer, we have a little more, there's a little less demand on our staff, and as we get closer to the deadline, there are going to be more and more people are going to be needing assistance. So it's a good idea to get on this early, because we'll be able to help you more effectively should you need it. But as I said, remember, create shells, okay? The reason we create shells is because if you do make a mistake, if you don't like it, you just throw away the shell and start over if that's what you want to do, okay? Whereas if you make mistakes in a live course, you're going to have to untangle it. It may be possible to get the information back, but you may lose some information. You don't know. So I always encourage people, build in a shell. Okay, I will be sending more information about that in my follow-up email. So we do have a few minutes. If you have questions about your specific instances, this is the time to voice your concerns. Yes, Laura, go ahead.
Would it be possible for you to just show us a few examples of building in Ultra? Like,
Yep.
You're just starting from scratch, how you would
Sure.
working on that?
Yeah, that is not a problem. Give me a second. I'm going to share my screen again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so that's, hold on. Is that coming? There we go. Ooh. Okay, so that's my original course. I'm going to get out of that. Let's go back to my new, where'd my shell go? Oh, well, this one will work. Oh, you can see this already has something in it, but that's okay. So if I'm going to create a new assignment, okay, I'm starting from scratch. I click the plus icon and I click create. The slide out panel, I have a lot of options here. I can create a learning module. I can create a folder. I can create a document, and this is sort of like a stripped down web page. It's not just a text document. It's something that you can add images, you can put embed video and stuff like that. So it really is kind of like I said, a stripped down web page. We can add links. So if you want to link to something outside, you'll click this. And then we've got these SCORM packages, which if you're loading a SCORM package, contact us. We'll help you with that. But for scratch building, mostly you're going to be concerned with these top four, right? Now there is a nesting limit, as I mentioned. So if I create a learning module, what it does is it pops this up. I'm just going to call this module 1. And everything in Ultra shows up hidden from students. This does allow you to add stuff if you need to during the semester without worrying about showing stuff accidentally, which is kind of a nice feature. But you can add description, all this other stuff. I'm not going to do that right now, but you'll just save it. Once it's saved, you'll see you've got this module here and it is hidden from students. If I want to add stuff to the module, I will want to open it first because it's much easier to put stuff in it if the module is open. This works pretty much the same way for folders. So I would like you to notice how I've opened this module and you can see, and it's kind of hard to see, but there's this little gray box, right, around the outside, and inside is another line with this plus icon. But out here, right, there's also this plus icon, okay? If I click this first plus icon that is contained within this module, right, that means I'm going to create something and it's going to be placed inside the module, okay? So now, when I click to create, you'll notice my module option is gone. That is because it does not allow you to put modules inside of modules. You can only put a folder inside a module, or you can put a folder inside a folder. But that's going to be the limit of your nesting. So if I add this folder, okay, so now you'll notice that when I come into this folder and I open this folder and I go to add something here and I click create, I no longer have either my module or my folder option because I've reached my nesting limit. I can only add a document. So add a document. Okay, now this, like I said, is it's like a stripped down web page. So I'm going to call it doc1. And if I want to add content, I have several of these options, right? I can just click this add content. This will open my text editor and I can just blah, 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 start typing, right? You've got several options along the top here as far as text style, fonts, headings, colors, things like that, bold and underline. You can add tables. But these items over here are probably what you're going to use the most because these allow you to add different items, right? You can link in this document, you can link to an outside URL. So if I want to do that, let's say niu.edu, I hope this works. I'll just call this an NIU link. Right? Yeah, you can see, oops, I should have put it down here. A little easier. But now that's just a quick way to create a link. If you want to attach a file, right, you're going to click the paperclip. That will take you into your computer where you can select an item to attach. I'm not going to do that at the moment. And then this guy right here, this plus icon, remember I said the plus icon always adds something. This is how you're going to add things like images or media. You can attach a YouTube video via this, or if you've got some third-party content, you'll go to the content market. So if you want to attach a Kaltura video, this is how you would do this. I don't know if you're familiar with Kaltura, but all of the tools we have are going to be here on your content market here to add a Kaltura video. You'll come down here to the Kaltura video and you would click here. If you want to add a video quiz, you would click the video quiz. I'm not going to do that right now because we're a little bit pressed for time. But anyway, that's just how you would create a document. Once you're finished, you're going to click Save. And then come back out here, you can see now inside module 1, I've got folder 1, and inside that folder is this document. So I could have a quick document that describe, this document can be used for a lot of things. It can be used, just as an introductory item, so you can say, hey, this is what we're going to be learning in this week's stuff, and you can have all sorts of supplemental materials below it. You can actually create a document that is the learning item itself. So there's text with images or videos and things so that students go through it. It's very versatile. So it's really, up to you and sort of only limited by sort of how you kind of want to structure your course. Yes, Bobby.
So you just created this document and like students wouldn't be able to see anything you typed without clicking into the document. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So that's kind of different than like an item that I used to use in like the original course view where it would have like everything visible just like on the page. Is that no longer an option in Ultra?
Well, I think really it's there. It's just different on how you get there, if that makes any sense. Because everything now is contained on this one content page.
Okay.
So you don't have that side menu with all those different divisions, which was actually, those actually count as a folder level. So instead of having that, right, these modules sort of represent that left side menu in original. So really, you're clicking down in here, and when you open this document, then it will display, and this is a terrible one that I created, but if I had edited this and put images in, you would have text. You can link to articles through this, or, if you don't want to put it all in one document, the other option, right, is to then link, place an article, and I don't know that I got anything handy. So let's see if there's something in here. Yeah, but you could, you can attach files. Yeah, let's see if we got a good picture. And that's something I'm glad you asked that question, because one thing I forgot to mention is that in Ultra you can choose whether students can view something, download it, or view and download it both. So it's entirely up to you. But that is one, when you add something, it's going to be prompted. It's going to prompt you to make those selections. But yeah, you have to click in to get into them. It's not going to display unless they click in, I guess. Is that essentially the question you were asking? I think I got a little off track.
Yeah, that was it. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, Laura, go ahead.
Is there a way to set it up so that students have to complete things in one module before another module opens up to them? Or
Yep.
Oh, okay. How does
You
that
can. That is, see over here. Where is it? Where is this? There is a progress tracking feature. I cannot remember where it is at the moment. Oh, it's right here. So if I have this progress tracking feature, if I turn this on, this allows students to track their progress, and it will also create the data for you. So you can then go in. If you want them then to go through the item in sequence, you'll have to go into your module, and I believe it is right here. Yeah, and then you'll force the sequence. Okay, so when you've clicked that, now everything in this module a student has to go through in sequence. I don't have enough items in here. But here, well, I guess I do. Hold on, let me see if this is going to work for us. I'm going to enter the student oh, wait, cancel. Because we need to make that visible and make this visible. All right, so let's try it. I hope this is going to work for us. Yeah. Oh, wow. This is actually changed a little from the last time I looked at it. This is kind of nice. So you see this module 1. I'm here as a student, so I'm just going to click start. And it shows me this first document. And then, so obviously it can't tell if a student has read something or not. So in this case, it's up to the student to click into the next thing, right, when they're done. And so then this was that picture I put in, okay? And then I could go back to the other one. Now, if there's a video, they're gonna have to play through the video in order to move to the next thing. If there's an assessment that is machine graded, they're gonna have to complete that assessment before the next thing will open. So, anything that like a video or an assessment that is that the Blackboard is able to keep track of and monitor the progress for a student, they will have to complete that activity before they're allowed to open the next one.
Great, thank you. I have a meeting, so I'm gonna have to get going so that I can prepare for that. But
okay,
this is so helpful, and I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Like I said, I will send out a follow-up email tomorrow. Don't hesitate to get a hold of me if you have any difficulty. If you can't get a hold of me, contact CITL. Somebody will get back to you as soon as we can. Do keep in mind that we do work normal business hours. So if you do have a request or submit a request on the weekend, it may be a little while before we get back to you, but we will get back to you as soon as we can. But as I said, feel free to reach out to me at any time. I will include my information in the follow-up email. And here, I think I've got it.
Great, thank you so much.
If I can get it. Yeah, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. I know we are at the end of the session. So here's my information. If you need it, please get a hold of me. If you do have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to talk about this stuff. So, but
thank you.
If
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right. Yeah, you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.